What if I told you there's something that you're doing every single day in your practice, something that takes your staff time, it benefits the patient, and directly impacts the patient's outcomes, and you're doing it completely for free, right? Not only are you not getting paid, but when patients don't do it, your outcomes suffer, your reputation takes a hit, and you might even get blamed for poor results. What I'm talking about right now is a crucial part of what you do every day, which is creating a home exercise program for your patients. And up to 2023, there was really no way to get paid for that time and an effort that you put into it, or monitoring it and supporting the patient and encouraging them. And it's probably the reason why 70% of patients aren't doing their homework. That all changed in 2023, and most practice owners have no idea what that change involves. My name is Dr. Andrew Gorecki. I'm a practice owner. Let me show you how we turn something that we were already doing every single day in our practice for 15 years into $40,000 per month in additional revenue. Let's talk about it. You know, what actually goes into creating a home exercise program and then actually implementing it and doing it right? So step one is typically we're going to create that program. Your therapist probably spends 5-10 minutes in a session to do that. They select what the appropriate exercise is, right? They're going to customize it hopefully for the specific condition that the patient has. They might record a video or find a stock video. They might write instructions out like old school. They might print something for the patient. Then they're going to teach the patient another 5 minutes how to do it, demonstrate it, make sure that everybody's on the same page, correcting their form, explaining how many times a day and all that stuff, answering questions, right? They want to make sure the patient understands it, you know, and then there's the following up throughout the care, right? Are you doing your home exercises? Let me show you that one again. You know, let's modify this because maybe it's too hard or was causing symptoms. A lot of times there's patients that are calling or texting in between visits. Or maybe you're modifying the program in between visits, or, you know, helping them with struggles that they're having, and you're dealing with their non-compliance, right? When patients don't do their home program, their progress is slower, right? They need more visits. Their outcomes, you know, aren't going to be as good. They might even leave a bad review blaming you that they didn't get the results that they were hoping for. And then, of course, the physician gets upset, right? The referring physician is wondering why the heck they didn't get better. So let me ask you this, like if you have 5 therapists and each therapist sees 8 to 10 patients per day and each patient maybe needs, home program support, how many hours per week is your staff spending on home exercise programs? Have you ever thought about that? You ever analyze that? Let's do some quick math, right? So if we've got 5 therapists, maybe 10 patients a day, 5 days a week, that's 250 patient interactions or visits a week. Even if only 50% of those people needed a home program in a given week, that's 125 patients. So if that was 10 minutes per patient, that's 1,250 minutes. That's 20 hours per week your staff spends on home exercise programs. And that doesn't even include any of the time that's outside of patient care time when they're communicating with them or modifying things remotely. You know, so they're not getting paid for any of that. That's $0 and lots of hours, right? And actually, it's worse than that, right? You're paying your staff to do this work, but you're actually losing money on it, right? So not to mention when there's openings, cancels, no-shows. But here's the thing: you can't not do it, right? Home exercise programs are essential to patient outcomes. They're a core part of physical therapy, at least in my opinion. And there's lots of research to back that up. So you're kind of stuck. You know, it's part of the job. It's part of the overhead. Something you have to do. But I think most of us don't do it well. And that's why we see 70% of patients aren't actually participating in the home program. You know, and that's what I thought until 2023. And in January, Medicare and most major insurance companies actually started reimbursing for something called Remote Therapeutic Monitoring, right? Or RTM is probably something you've heard, hopefully you've heard at this point. But you might have heard of it. You might have heard of remote patient monitoring. That's been around for a few years. For chronic disease management with physicians. Doctors use it to monitor blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, things like that. RTM is similar, but it's specifically for monitoring the therapeutic activities like rehabilitation, like home exercise programs for physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. You know, and so here's what RTM allows you to bill, right? There's 6 codes that you can bill for. You can bill for the setup and education. It's a one-time code. It reimburses about $20 to $25. That's when you give them the software and you set up their home program. There's also a monthly device supply code that reimburses about $55 to $65. every single month that the person has the software you've given them. And that's awesome. And then there's the time that your provider or someone you hire remotely monitors and communicates with the patient. And that's for every 20 minutes that's reimbursed about $50. And so you can do up to 60 minutes a month, a minimum of 10 minutes a month. And so it's a game changer. You know, we right now are generating $160 per patient per month on average using this program. And now let me be clear about what this means, right? You can now get paid for providing patients with a system to track their home program, right? That's amazing, right? It has to be through an app or a software. And so they're monitoring whether they're actually doing the exercises or not, right? You're trying to increase engagement. You're reviewing their progress. You're reviewing their engagement data. You're communicating with them about whether they're doing their homework or not. So they know that you're watching and paying attention, which builds up their engagement. You're encouraging compliance. You're asking questions. They can chat with you. Sounds familiar, right? This is stuff you're already doing. It's just now you're getting paid for it, right? And when I first learned about this, I thought it was really too good to be true. I actually called Medicare and several other compliance experts to talk with them about this. And it's real. It's a real thing. It's legitimate. It is actually encouraged by the insurance companies. They want you to do a better job at getting your patients to do more at home. And it's been available since January of 2023. And here's the crazy part. Most practice owners still don't even know about it. I think 1.6% of patients received this last year. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, I've heard a lot about, a lot of new revenue opportunities over the years. What makes this one different? Well, this one is different. It's a great question, but let me show you. I mean, compared to going like cash based, there's no need to drop insurance, right? You want to continue to serve your community. There's no need to rebuild your entire patient acquisition system. This is all for your current patients. There's no 12 to 18 month transition period. You're offering it right away to the patients that are going to benefit from it. You can compare that to buying equipment, right? Laser or shockwave, where there's a huge upfront cost. This has zero upfront cost. There's no maintenance. There's no contracts. There's no need to generate new patient demand and create a brand new marketing program. There's really no risk, right? It's, compared to adding new services like dry needling, where there's certifications that need to happen, training, there's travel, they got to go to somebody, you got to pay them for the class. You're already doing this work, or compare retail products. We tried that as well. And again, you have to have inventory. So there's shipping, there's returns, there's headaches. And so I think that this right now is the best option to increase, revenue. What makes RTM unique right now is that you're already doing the work. You're already creating home programs for your patients. You're already monitoring compliance if you're a good therapist. You're already following up with the patients, right? You're just not getting paid for it. And so there's also no upfront investment. You don't need fancy equipment that's expensive. Most of the RTM software companies have no upfront costs. I know ours doesn't. And the patients love it. The patients feel like it's a high touch experience, and you're going to get the benefit of getting reimbursed, right? And it also, this is important, it benefits the patient. It's not about squeezing more money out of the patient. It's about providing better support so they can actually get better outcomes, right? Patients like that. They like the accountability. They like getting better results, right? Because this thing improves their outcomes. So when patients are monitored and supported at home, their compliance goes up. When compliance goes up, outcomes goes up, right? That's amazing. That's a really positive thing here. And then your reputation goes up and you get more referrals. It's awesome. It's super fast to implement, right? It took us 2 months to get up and rolling versus our cash-based services, which have taken a lot longer. It's scalable, right? You can just scale this amongst all the patients that would benefit in your practice, which is most of them. And so you don't have to create a new market, right? Every patient who's appropriate for a home program most likely is potentially going to be able to do remote monitoring. And that's probably all your patients. And so I think it's really important to really digest this, right? Let me show you what it looked like in my practice, right? So before RTM, in 2022, we had 13 therapists in 2 locations. We were seeing about 200 visits a week, probably a little more, 250 actually. Every patient got a home program. Staff spent lots of hours a week doing follow-up phone calls after evals and questions that patients might have. And patient compliance with home programs was about 40 to 50%. After implementing RTM in 2023, the first month we trained staff a little bit. It wasn't a whole lot because we were making home programs. We started enrolling patients, Medicare first, and then we went to the commercial payers. And fast forward, we're now generating $40,000 a month in revenue just from this program that we were already doing. And patient outcomes are improved. Through our MIPS score, you can see our outcomes are better, and our reviews are outstanding. You can read our reviews. We've got over 1,000 5-star reviews, and 20% of them at least are calling out the videos and the home program and the support and the accountability that we provide. And so it's been a game changer. It's been consistently a game changer every single month. We're going to continue to do it. It's allowed us to pay our staff more, recruit better, more people. And we're just we're just doing a good job with it. And I just can't, stress enough, right? That it's a super important thing that I think should be standard practice, because if the outcomes are going up and you're not doing it, you should feel obligated to be doing it, right? Not to mention, it's going to reduce your cancellation and no-show rate, your drop-off rate, because patients are engaged with you more when they're not with you. So there's that accountability aspect. And so our practice has really thrived with it. And simply adding remote therapeutic monitoring software to our practice has been a game changer. And really, that's the difference, right? That's the difference between barely surviving and thriving. And it's been challenging, right? There's no doubt about it. But it's also the difference between losing staff to competitors like the hospital system or home health, where, you in a normal reimbursement model, you can't pay enough because you can't compete with them. It's also the difference between stress and stability, right? And here's the thing. We were already doing the work. We were already creating the home programs. I can't say that enough. We were already trying to monitor whether they were doing the program or not, and we were already following up with them outside of patient care time. We just weren't getting paid for it. Now we are. And so very, very important. I think you should strongly think about this. But, maybe you're thinking, so if this is so great, why isn't everybody doing it, right? Well, I think there's 3 reasons why people aren't doing it right now. It's new. The codes are new. They're different. They have unique behaviors, I think makes people nervous. And in the beginning of this program, the codes were a little stricter, and now they've launched new codes in 2026. So most practice owners are just hearing about it now. I think another reason is that it sounds too good to be true, right? When I first heard about this, my kind of BS detector went off, and I thought, is insurance really going to pay me for something I'm already doing? Yeah, sure they are, right? It's been going down, down, down. Well, hey, I did my research. Medicare, we talked to the experts. It's legitimate. It's encouraged. They want us to do it. It's very valuable. I think another reason is maybe they're confused about how it works. When I talk to practice owners, they kind of think that it's like for remote people that are not with you, like telehealth, or do I need an EMR integration? You don't, by the way. Does my staff doesn't have any time? Well, that's okay too. They don't need to do this. We're going to talk about this in the future, but they don't actually have to be doing the monitoring time. You can outsource that. I think a lot of practice owners think it's too complicated. I'm telling you it's not. Big one is, what if I get audited, right? Well, if you do it right, you're not going to get audited. But if you do get audited, you're going to pass because you're going to listen to my future videos, right? The practices that are implementing RTM now are early adopters. I was an early adopter. And they're the ones who are going to have this revenue stream established before it becomes common. You should be one of those, right? You should be like me. In 2 to 3 years, I believe every practice in the country is going to be doing this. The question is, will you be one of the early adopters, or are you going to be a laggard, right? And I think it's important to recognize it benefits the patient, right? And why wouldn't you be doing this? If you know it benefits the patient and it benefits you, it seems like a no-brainer to me that you'd be implementing this. But hey, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say that RTM is completely effortless, or that every practice will have the same results that we do or did. But there are things that you need to understand, and I think it's important, right? You understand that not every patient is appropriate, right? So you need to know, which patients are eligible and qualify, and which don't, and that's an important thing. You got to know what are the documentation requirements, right? You need to track things properly, and that's what the software is all about. So you really need software that does this for you, so you're compliant. In that software, it can't be on spreadsheets and text messages. That will be a crazy hassle. It needs to be something that needs to be monitored, right? So there needs to be someone doing the monitoring of the patient's activity. So that could be someone in your office, but you can also hire somebody remotely to do it, or you can outsource it to someone like us. You need to know how to bill correctly, right? The codes have very specific rules and requirements. We help you with that. The insurance companies vary, so you got to know your payers. Medicare is the most reliable, but there are several commercial payers that also pay for this, but some don't. So you got to know that, and that's again where we come in as experts to help people with that. But here's what I want you really to understand is none of these challenges are impossible to overcome, right? And the potential upside is massive. In my practice, we went from considering closing or selling to having the best financial year since 2019, right? So that's an important thing to think about. We're able to give our staff raises. That was the first thing I did is I gave our staff a raise, everybody across the board. We're able to invest in our practice. I can sleep better at night, right? All from getting paid for the work that we were already doing. Did I say that already? I think I might have. So if you're interested in learning more about remote therapeutic monitoring, it's really simple. I've got some great things for you, and I want you to continue to follow me so you can learn how it works, whether your practice qualifies, what are the implementation processes and what do they look like? What's the realistic revenue for you as a clinic? So I put together this comprehensive guide. It's called the Physical Therapist Guide to Remote Therapeutic Monitoring, and I want to give it to you for free. And all you have to do is click the button below this video to hit download, and I'll send it right to your email. It tells you exactly how billing works, which patients qualify, what's the documentation requirements, and how to be compliant, how to implement it in your practice without getting pushback from your staff. Most importantly, the common mistakes to avoid, and then realistic ways to go about it. So there's no sales pitch, no pressure, just everything you need to know all in one guide so you can make an informed decision about your practice and whether RTM makes sense for you or not. So click the download button, get that for free, and hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it.